Welcome to another edition of Cane Matters. I'm your host, Sonia Campbell, and today we're talking about the important roles played by SRA's District Managers. We have 5 dedicated DMs overseeing all sugar growing regions from far north Queensland in the north down to our southernmost growing areas in northern New South Wales. Joining me to share more insight is our District Manager Burdekin, Terry Granshaw. Welcome, Terry.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Now, you are one of our longest-serving district managers at SRA. What is your main role and the role of all district managers?
So the district managers are key positions in each region, as you've just said. Basically, there's a lot of stakeholder engagement that takes place. So the district managers are basically trying to come up with a strategic plan that can enhance the region's productivity and profitability. It's really important that we identify the opportunities and constraints in each region and create the plan around improving those outcomes. So we want to see the growers prosper, we want to see the millers prosper, and we want to see the industry prosper, which then feeds into the community, the environment, and all of those things. So it's really important for our district managers to be involved with whatever is going on in that region and collaborate with the stakeholders in the region.
They really are that direct touch point for industry.
That's correct. It's really important to be able to make sure that the growers have a person or someone they can reach at SRA. I suppose you could say we're the on-ground person that they can reach out to and basically have a discussion about what's working and what's not working. And that's something that we can then talk to our researchers about, and we can create positive outcomes from that.
There's lots of examples where that happens on a daily basis, whether that be grower calling up, which just happened the day before yesterday, saying, he had a smut sighting in one of his varieties. Could we come and have a look? Yeah, we race out there and identify it, make sure that the grower understands what's happening, the variety, how susceptible it is. And then if we have to, because we're not super experts in all this stuff, we'll reach out to the researchers. And if it's really important, we'll get a researcher to come out and visit that site. We also align really, really well with the prod services and consultants around the district, universities. It's been many a time where, we've been approached through a project, and if there's a university involved, there's usually a researcher involved, but there's also the district managers and the industry services team or adoption team, so that we have a bit of legacy at the end of it, whatever happens, so we can actually communicate that out to the industry via shed meetings or through your team and fact sheets and stuff like that, and possibly even podcasts like this.
And the process that you use with your strategic planning, each district manager has their own budget, which allows them to engage with industry and also conduct on-the-ground trials and projects in each district.
We've got a limited budget, but we can actually do these small on-ground projects that make difference and create outcomes. I think they're really important deliverables, and I think the big thing that comes out of these, if you want to call them small projects, is what they can actually lead to. So they can lead to bigger outcomes, they can lead to actual research projects, and they can lead to actual funding to come in and support that particular region.
So you can effectively navigate new and emerging challenges and issues when they arise.
We can respond quickly. So, there's been some examples of that. I suppose one that comes to mind immediately is the discontinuation of the granular formulation of metocloprid. There's no particular, it's not a regulated decision. It was just a decision from the company not to use that form of product anymore. That created a problem immediately for the districts like the Burdekin and Mackay who plant early in the season. So what that means is that there's a window when you apply metocloprid, the liquid metocloprid, and that window is too early because the growers in the Burdekin and some in Mackay plant very early in the season, and for us to be able to apply a liquid metocloprid at the correct time, it meant that the cane crop would be too big and would be very difficult for us to apply it correctly. So immediately we decided to put a replicated random strip trial in, comparing the granular, using that as a control, with the liquid metocloprid product, which I actually found had a different label to the rest of the liquid metocloprid products, which allowed us to apply it in June. So we actually spoke with the senior researchers, the entomologists, and said that we're going to go ahead with this. We then collaborated with the local prod services, and then we got the Kevin Powell, our senior entomologist, to come up and look over the way that we did the digs for the cane grubs. So I think that's a really good example of how we can react when something happens in the industry.
You mentioned two different districts just now, Burdekin and Mackay. We know that different growing regions can face different production pressures and constraints, but in many cases the same challenges can be one and the same for all districts.
100%. And there are some other examples in particular right now that's a bit of a talking point. It's the micro NIR project, which is looking at moisture in the stalk. There's no reason why that can't be done across all the regions. RSD is also always a big topic. I think there's every single region that is touching on RSD some way or another through the district plans. Irrigation practices is another one. So you've got the tablelands, you've got Mackay, and you've got the Burdekin. So obviously the Burdekin is fully irrigated system, and some of the projects that have been developed here, we've been able to extend that into these other areas. So there's definitely some cross-regional work that happens. And again, the outcomes from there, you see adoption of current practices and some of the older practices. But yeah, it's pretty important to make sure that we're supporting the industry and we're trying to create a better industry. If we can provide small outcomes or large outcomes, whatever they may be, that support making the growers or the millers more productive or more profitable, that's what we're here to do.
What does a day in the life look like for you?
A day in the life for me personally it's quite big. And remember, I used to be a farmer, so I know what big days are all about. And that could be anything from going out and speaking to a grower one-on-one about a particular problem that they have. It could be getting up at midnight and doing a harvester trial. And it could be, looking at new research and making sure that research trials are completed correctly. They're supporting the researcher driving a tractor, all of these things. And not to forget the emails and phone calls. We get a lot of phone calls every day and respond to them as quickly as possible. And hopefully that the industry appreciates that.
You mentioned our research and development. We have a very strong framework of R&D at SRA. However, in your role and the role of all district managers, when you're talking about innovation and finding effective solutions for problems, it can often be more simple ideas with practical thinking that can be just what a grower needs to find an answer to a problem or production challenge.
I agree. I think you don't have to have everything. You don't have to spend a lot of money sometimes to get a really nice practical outcome. Sometimes a little practical solution of maybe changing an implement. A good example of that is when Emily came up and did the imidacloprid workshop about Emily Filios, our weed scientist. I presented alongside her with some data from trials that we'd done through the district plan. And it was all about how we apply liquid imidacloprid correctly. And we found that a lot of people were doing it, but weren't quite doing it correctly. And a lot of people put their hand up in that workshop, and there's a lot of growers at that workshop, and said, we could do this better. And they really appreciated the fact that we had ways of showing you how to do it properly and how not quite so well. So if you want to get a good result, you need to do it like this. So yeah, and there's just practical solutions about equipment. And sometimes it's just nice to have another set of eyes there. And that's all it can be sometimes. Irrigation's the same. Irrigation's one of those ones where, grower's busy. He's just doing it all the time, and he or she's just doing it all the time. And it's just something that's monotonous, and you got to do it all the time, and you haven't got time to really sit down and study it and have a look at what you're doing. So it can help when you just collect some simple data, simple information, have a chat to someone like your district manager or your district delivery officer, and come up with a practical solution. Just trial it. It doesn't matter. It might work, might not. There's no recipes.
And because you have that direct contact with industry and you're hearing about everything that happens on the ground, you're then identifying potential research projects.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly, and that's probably a big part of our role. Actually going around listening, finding out what's going on, what's working, what's not, what can we do better? And then basically coming back with a proposal that the researchers can possibly look at. A good example of that more recently, it would be, again, I'm going to use Emily again, Emily Filios. It's, in the Burdekin here, we've got a wild sorghum and itchgrass problem. really, really bad weeds. And so District Delivery Officer from the Burdekin and Emily worked together, and they went out and collected samples of different sorghum, wild sorghum that we thought were different varieties that ended up getting DNA tested, and then let them get to maturity. And Emily put in pot trials up in Moringa. And from that, we were able to basically, she used multiple herbicides. And I think it was in one of the last Cane Matters magazines. And so the results were fantastic. But we then looked at it and said, well, hang on, how come we don't see that out in the field? So we're trying to work out why certain things are working and why certain things aren't. So, and that could just be in a simple adoption of a practice that maybe we're not doing so well.
Mm-hmm. And as a district manager, you're also involved grassroots in our research. Today you're going out as part of the new imidacloprid project. You're out there on the tractor and you're applying chemicals in this trial. And other district managers are also going to be involved in this trial?
Yeah, that's correct. It's super important, really, really important. Probably the most important thing right now in the industry is to get some sort of cane grub product that can, that we can sustain crops that aren't going to have huge amount of damage. So in the past, grub damage has been one of our largest sort of losses, I suppose, that we've been able to, the industry is sort of hit with, and has been always a problem. So it's really important. So the best way to do this is to have our district managers right there where they're helping, firstly, to find the sites, so that connection, working with prod services to find these sites. And then secondly, actually applying making sure, working with the researchers that it all works the way it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's what I'm there for, but I'm just supporting. And then when I get asked about it by industry, I can give a direct answer. I know exactly what's happened. I haven't heard it third hand. So, and I think that's a really important role of the district managers, to actually understand and know what's going on in their own region. And I think probably when you talk about this role as a specific role, that's probably the important thing, knowing just what's happening in your region and why things are happening, and why does Sugar Research Australia do what it does.
We certainly all have an important role to play at SRA, and if there is anyone within the industry who'd like to get in contact with their district manager, all district managers and their contact details are included on SRA's website, sugarresearch.com.au. Terry, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in for another edition of Cane Matters.